Did you know that in order to experience happiness, you also have to experience sadness? In order to know that you're alive, you need to conceive the idea of being dead. This is the law of polarity. And I want to talk to you about the law of polarity with the idea that it's important to show ourselves compassion in this beautiful journey that we call life. And so maybe you're going through a tough time right now, or maybe yesterday or this morning, you're just feeling low. And there was a time where when I felt low, I would experience sadness and have thoughts that were very uncomfortable. And then on top of that, when I moved out of that feeling, I would then ruminate over having that experience and feel additional guilt at having that low point. And so if you can relate to this, I want to invite you to clear out all distractions right now and to allow yourself to be present and really tune into this conversation today. Because being able to offer ourselves compassion and look at things in a way that is beneficial and empowering to us will completely change our life and give us that freedom that we all dream about having. And so the law of polarity is just as real as the law of electricity or the law of gravity. And we experience emotions on a spectrum. And so the more that we allow ourselves to fully embrace our emotions, the more we are going to feel. So there are people who may numb themselves with watching TV, drugs, alcohol, eating, gaming. There's a whole myriad of options to numb ourselves. And there was a time in my life many years ago where I was struggling with an addiction. And I noticed that at first I would engage in this addiction when I was feeling sad or anxious. And eventually this addiction started consuming all of my feelings. And it's amazing that I had this awareness now that I look back, because I was only 17, 18 years old. But I saw how it was taking over my emotions. And I really was becoming numb to the experience of life. And thankfully, fast forward a few years later, I was working to have a much healthier relationship with this particular experience in my life. And I have since moved past this addiction. But I use this as an example because I know from firsthand experience that if we don't allow ourselves to experience the low emotions, or we might even call them bad emotions, sadness, could even be borderline depression, anger, resentment, all of these feelings that we may label as bad. If we don't allow ourselves to feel those feelings, then we're also robbing ourselves of experiencing the opposite of those feelings. And so I'm going to go over today some of the tools that you can lean into to help navigate these low feelings, because Many of the times, if we don't have the tools or the awareness to navigate these low emotions, our mind can respond in a way that it essentially tells us that we are bad or we're doing something wrong. And this is not true at all. And we can give compassion for our brain too, because our brain is logical. It wants to make sense of things. It wants to figure things out. And so if we are experiencing the sorrow, doubt, any feelings that are dark, our mind will be like a jumping monkey trying to find what we did wrong. But the truth is that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And having feelings is part of having the human experience. And so what do we do? What do we do when we are experiencing these low moments? And sometimes they can just come out of the blue, right? It's like, what's the weather going to be today? Well, most of the time, my days are sunny and joyful. And I might have moments of challenges, but once in a while, a dark cloud will come over. And this just happened the other day to me. A dark cloud came in and it was like, whew, it just hit me. And thankfully, it was on a day that I didn't have a lot of responsibility. It was on the weekend. And I did what I needed to do to take care of my responsibilities. And then I carved out some time where I allowed myself to feel my feelings. I was in a safe place. I was by myself. If I needed to call a friend, I could. But crying, journaling, those are two very good tools. And another one that I want to talk to you about is observation. And so it's really important to know that when we are experiencing our feelings, our mind is going to be like that jumping monkey. And so I invite you, and we're going to try this right now. I invite you to find a quiet spot, or if you're driving in a car, you can still do this, but of course, keep your eyes open. But I want you, if you can, to close your eyes. And I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw. And keep doing this. Do another deep breath. And breathe out. And do it another time. Breathe in and out. And I invite you to notice your feet. And feel your feet. Are they bare? Are they in socks? Are they in shoes? Are they touching the floor? Just notice your feet. And then I want you to notice your knees. Are they bent? Are they straight? Notice your knees. And then I want you to notice your stomach. Bring your attention to the middle of your stomach. And now to the tops of your shoulders. What are you feeling? Are they relaxed? Is there any tension? Notice your shoulders. And finally, we're bringing our attention to the top of our head. All right. If you close your eyes, I want you to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw, and open your eyes. And that is how we observe. And there's a beautiful tool called Notice What You're Noticing. And the more we do these techniques, as far as breathing, observing, quieting our mind, and focusing with intention, we strengthen our observer self. And so one of the wonderful tools and methods that we can use whenever we feel that cloud of feelings come in is to quiet our mind. Quiet that monkey that wants to jump from moment to moment, trying to find why we are experiencing these low feelings, trying to find some sort of reason or fault, to place blame and guilt, to further expand or deepen or strengthen that pain that we're feeling at the moment. Just quiet, let that monkey just relax. And I invite you at that moment to release judgment of the feelings and to just observe and to honor those feelings that are coming up. Because many of the times what is happening is that we live in a society where we love making ourselves busy. And we are all very good at creating to-do lists and just piling things on. And some of it are things that we really do need to show up for. Other things we may just think we need to show up for. Regardless, the important thing here is to recognize that a lot of times we are moving and running, and our mind is so focused on our to-do list and what we need to do and accomplish that we don't take a moment to rest and to be. And so that's what happened to me the other day, and I'm sharing this with you because I'm sure many of you can relate to this, that when you're in a season or a period of your life where you are getting pushed and pulled in many directions, and it could even be a wonderful experience. You could be so grateful for all these wonderful things. You know, maybe your kids are in fun activities, or you're being invited to social activities, or you have a job that you love and a marriage that you're doing fun things and enjoying time together. It could be very full and wonderful. Regardless, it's about how we're spending our time and the space that we are not allowing ourselves to process our feelings. And so, for example, I'm in a busy season with my life, and I had a day where it was a down day. I didn't have much going on. And before, like 2 or 3 days before, I could feel tension building in my shoulders. So much so that I was feeling a migraine. I was feeling just really not good, right? Headache, little, not dizzy, but kind of off a bit. And so allowing myself that space, all that tension in my muscles needed to release. And so when we release emotions, we experience them. It's like opening up a trash bag and smelling the horrible smells. And sometimes it's a similar experience when we're feeling our feelings, right? It's not necessarily something that we would sign up for on a Friday night, but it's very healthy to be able to experience and release our feelings. And so as we're releasing them, we don't have to do anything. Like for me, I just sat there and observed. And if I needed to cry and release, then I would do that. Many a times I'll journal. I didn't even want to journal. I just allowed myself to be. And so it's really important that we don't take our thoughts too seriously. because they're going to pass. And as we're noticing what we're noticing, it's very important to use our observer mind. And through this, we can become aware of the emotions that we're having. And if our mind is really wanting to do something, we can allow it to label our emotions. Oh, there's sadness. There's regret. There's doubt. Oh, there's some more doubt. Lots of doubt today. And just let it release. And then once we have gotten to a point where that releasing is really slowing down and we haven't taken our thoughts and our feelings too seriously, right? Because when we're experiencing that sadness and we're in that dark mode, we can have some thoughts that are not friendly to us being our best selves and living our best life. And so it's really important that we release judgment and just let those thoughts and feelings go down the river and be released. And then we can ask ourselves, we can shift our perspective of our experience and ask ourselves, what might this low be preparing me for? Because it's thought that many times the quality of our life is dependent on the quality of our questions. And so when we're feeling low, we could ask, why me? Why am I feeling so sorry for myself? Or we could say, what might this low moment be preparing me for? What can I learn from this experience? What valuable information is this experience showing me? Those what questions, what and who questions can be very helpful. All right. And then if you do like to journal, I'm going to give you a couple of journal prompts if you want to write these down. So one journal prompt that we can use is, what is the opposite of what I'm experiencing right now? What is the opposite of what I'm experiencing right now? And this is beautiful because it's essentially showing us that that is another experience that is on its way for us. Because when we're experiencing a low, we're going to experience a high. Right? That's the law of polarity. In order to know happiness, we must know what sadness is. In order to know abundance, we must know what scarcity is. In order to know what being wealthy is, we must know what being poor is. And so another journal prompt that I invite you to do is, how can I hold compassion for both ends of the spectrum? How can I hold compassion for both ends of the spectrum? And regardless of how you're feeling today or tomorrow or yesterday or any day in the near future, I invite you to start a daily practice of gratitude. And there are different levels of being grateful. We all know that we can be grateful for our health, for the food on the table, for our children, for our friends, for the clothes that we're wearing, for our job that's providing. We can be grateful for many, many things. One more deeply and powerful way of being grateful is being grateful in every moment that we are in, regardless of the experience. Because there's always a seed of good in every experience, but we must be open to receiving it. And so I invite you to be grateful for both the contrast and the growth that it brings. And so how can we use this law of polarity for our benefit? So when we feel doubt, when we're feeling fear, we can consciously lean into faith. Right? So any moment that you're experiencing doubt or fear, I invite you to flip it on its head and lean into faith. We have faith in so many things. We have faith that our Amazon package is going to deliver, that the driver on the other side of the road is going to stay in their lane. We have faith that the sun is going to rise, that the planet's going to spin, that the seasons are going to change depending on where you're living, right? But I invite you to lean into faith. And another way that we can use polarity to our benefit is when we're feeling scarcity, to focus on evidence of abundance. Because abundance exists within us. And wherever our attention goes, our energy flows. So if we're focusing on scarcity, we're going to receive more scarcity. If we focus on abundance, we're going to receive more abundance. And so today I invite you, anytime you notice scarcity, I don't have money for that. We don't have any food in the house. There's no jobs. The market is bad. Any of those come up or anything similar, I invite you to flip it on its head and look for abundance. Actually, we have more food than I realized. Let's see what we can make in this pantry. Wow, my mother-in-law just dropped off all of this food for us. Look at us. Now we have a free meal. Look at all the trees outside. Recognizing that you don't need 100 jobs. All you need is one job, right? One job. So it doesn't matter how the market is because all you need is one job. And there are plenty of one jobs out there. There's an abundance. Another way that we can flip things on their head and use the law of polarity to our benefit is when we feel resistance. And many of the times we feel resistance towards things, whether it's events, actions, so many things that are beneficial to us. I started running recently after a long hiatus. I used to run when I was younger. I was on track and I would just run. I'd go out and I'd run and then I'd run and I'd run. And it was a great outlet for me anytime I needed to blow off steam or release stress. And I made a decision years ago to stop running because my knees were bothering me, and I got into other kinds of physical activity to enjoy the benefits of cardiovascular exercise. But recently I decided to challenge my limited beliefs around running and knee pain, and I started running again. And many of the times I will plan to run, and from the point I wake up to the point I go running, my mind will tell me every single reason I should not go running. And even when I start running, that first quarter mile, I will feel the most resistance. But it's keeping with it and continuing that momentum of running that will break free, and then I feel like I can just keep running. And so that's one example of how resistance can play a part in our lives. And so if you're feeling resistance, I invite you to seek curiosity and get curious as to why we're having certain thoughts. That's interesting that I'm having a thought about that. Is that resistance? Is that even true? Is my mind trying to keep me in the spot that I'm in now? And having that awareness and leaning into curiosity can move you right past that resistance into taking that action that's beneficial to you. All right, so understanding polarity and the law of polarity and how it plays a part in our life can help us move through emotions faster. We don't want to bypass emotions. And that's one topic that I do want to talk to you about today, because I know there's so much talk about being positive and having a vision, and that all is very, very true. It's very important to first to have a vision for our life and to lean into it and to visit it every day and to feel the feelings of great success in all areas of our life. And the truth is on our journey to becoming that person living that life in our vision, we are going to have low moments. And we don't want to have a spiritual bypass. We want to honor the feelings as they come up, but we just don't want to take them too seriously. It's important to recognize that we are releasing these. We are releasing everything that doesn't serve us anymore. And that could be those thoughts, those feelings that we've been holding on to. And we just want to release them. We want to release them. So the law of polarity teaches us that every low point carries the seed of a high point. So compassion, peace, purpose, they all arise in our life when we are able to embrace both. And I want to provide an affirmation for you, if you'd like to write this down. The affirmation is, I am whole. I honor the fullness of who I am. I am whole. I honor the fullness of who I am. And the wholeness of us is all areas, the sunny parts, the darker parts, and anywhere in between. And as we open ourselves up to experiencing the spectrum of our feelings, the more we are going to be able to live fully and freely as ourselves. And I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel, because more of these messages and episodes are going to be posted, and I don't want you to miss out on any inspiration or insight that I'm going to be offering you. It's free, so be sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in exploring more of the services that I have to offer, I invite you to check out my website, which is awthera.com. That's AWETHERA.com. And just remember that you deserve to live a beautiful, full life. You deserve to feel free. You can do it. I believe in you.